Angela Thomas, partner consumer and retail at Deininger Consulting in India. Headquartered in Germany, Deininger Consulting is one of the world's leading executive search and leadership consulting firms. I'm thrilled to have Anurag Bhatnagar with me today. Anurag is a senior hospitality and a very accomplished veteran who brings in with him almost 3 decades of experience. He is currently the COO at the Leela Palaces Hotels and Resorts, a company owned by Brookfield. He joined the Leela in 2020 and has been instrumental in putting the chain on an aggressive growth path. Most recently, he spent 2 decades with the Marriott International, earlier Starwood, including 16 years in various general management roles. He's an alumni of IHM Pusa and began his career with Oberoi Hotels. Welcome, Anurag, to Deininger Leadership Talk series.
Lovely to be here, Angela. Thank you.
Lovely. As you know, today's theme is emotional intelligence. And I would like to start with something I read, something that Dale Carnegie said. He said, I may be paraphrasing a little bit, but he said, when dealing with people, remember, you're not dealing with creatures of logic, but creatures of emotion. And I thought that would be a good Kickstarter to our conversation. And with that said, I would perhaps like to start with my first question. What does emotional intelligence mean to you in the context of leadership today?
In the context of leadership, I think emotional quotient or emotional intelligence to me, I would rate it a lot higher than what people would call as an intelligent quotient or an IQ. Or specifically, if I talk about the business and the only business that I know of, we are in the people's business. Our services, our products, our programming, and everything that we offer is delivered through people. So at various levels of leadership, people who have very strong EQ and the real emotional connect and touch with the teams that they work with, we have seen them do extremely better, and their hotels and their businesses do better. So in the context of leadership, I think it's inherent value or competency that you need to have and you need to inculcate and seek within yourself, which really sets you up for success in your business as well. And from what I see in other businesses and leaders, the one thing that I've seen in common with all accomplished leaders who have taken their businesses to new scalable scales and new heights is that they have this very, very strong person-to-person connect, this EQ. They seem to be knowing very well what makes the other people tick and what makes a difference and how credibly and how with so much of clarity, trust, and transparency, they were able to manage those relationships. I've seen that as a common denominator for most folks I know, even outside of hotels and hospitality.
Lovely. Beautifully put. And you said, seeking within yourself. And I think core of being emotionally intelligent is also being self-aware. And I think self-aware means revealing your vulnerable side now and then. But like you said, you've been in hospitality all your life. And you've dealt with various scenarios, good and bad. But do you think does showing your vulnerable side come in the way of leaders to demonstrate confidence or control, especially while dealing with situations of maybe crisis or conflicts?
I think when you're dealing with a crisis or a conflict, I think it's okay to show your vulnerable side. I mean, if I speak from my own experience, I think so that the teams know, your folks know that you are a real person. You're not just transactional or not a product of machine learning or artificial intelligence. You're a real human dealing with a real human scenario. And yes, there is an element of vulnerability because you need to be seen optically as a strong, seasoned professional who can deal with a crisis and has got command and control over a situation, because that's what more of leadership during crisis. But in terms of, I don't really think that in the long run, and for the people who really matter, showing your vulnerable side or looking within and being more self-aware puts you at a position of disadvantage. I really think that it makes your relationships, professional relationships, and your interactions more credible. The moment you know that there's a real human being with all his flaws and all his, all the sharp edges or whatever, and not just a polished, shiny product of marketing and optics, you're dealing with, it makes a difference. And then I believe your messaging is well accepted. Your narrative has so much more credibility because when you come from within, then it's a sum total of all your values that comes into play. You're not really, kind of hedging yourself by covering some things that you would not want to. But yes, of course, there are different situations and different interactions where you need to be more mindful. I'm sure when you're presenting to your board of directors or when you're in an annual general meeting or when you're presenting data points, it's very, very important that, you have those strokes in your game as well. But I don't think being vulnerable and expressing your vulnerability at times necessarily puts you at a disadvantage.
I agree. I agree. I think so rightly said. Vulnerability sort of shows credibility, but it's also important to understand context and where you are. And I think perhaps an extension to that, Anurag, last year's been tough. Last 18 months per se has been tough, and then hospitality unfortunately has been at the forefront of it. And I'm sure all the players in this space has gone through different turmoils in their own context. Do you think showing empathy and compassion, and then I think it's been very important, especially in the last 18 months, can be mistaken for a leader's inability to be assertive or take tough decisions? And especially, I remember the last time you and I spoke, you made a reference to CQ. So especially in a PE-backed organization, how do you balance CQ and EQ? Because you can't let go of commercial caution, so to say.
No, absolutely. In a couple of years impacted by Corona, and the businesses were decimated and all that, I would say this was a time that your EQ and your credibility and your authenticity as a human being was required even more than ever. Because yes, there were certain business decisions, there were jobs that were impacted, and I don't speak for Leela per se, but I speak across the industry today. And yes, there were roles, jobs that were impacted. But most importantly, I mean, there was this element of fear, anxiety, insecurity that was playing on the minds of your teams. Now, we are a large organization, and fortunately for us, and we are privileged to be on that growth mode, wherein we had 3 hotels openings, actually three and a half, I would say. The fourth one is also opening now, wherein we could move around, rotate our assets, and we did not have to take those dramatic measures like many other companies to balance their balance sheet or to safeguard their profitability or just to survive, I would say, but all the more reason that I think this was a time where EQ, because it's not just about what some certain companies had to do, I mean, across the businesses, it was also how they did it. Right. And I would say I got so many inbound requests from ex-colleagues and other hoteliers and people who suddenly realized that they didn't have a job the next day. And they knew that the Leela was growing and there could be an opportunity. And obviously, we couldn't accommodate most of them. But when we spoke to them, the very fact that we were willing to engage, we were willing to listen, and we were genuine in our intention that probably we didn't have a role for them then, but we may have a role for them in the near future. And we did manage to get some of them into the fold as we kept growing. And then I realized that many organizations did not deal, did not, they had to, I mean, listen, to protect your business interests, to be wise on CQ, whether you're owned by a private equity company or we all have boards to report to, and many companies are listed companies and things of that nature. But that being said, the humanness and the humanity which lies deep inside hospitality, which is at the core of hospitality, did not come through in the interactions. An email or a joint conference call with 700 people is not the right way for a leader to come across and say that 60% of the people will not have a job in the next few weeks. So I'm sure COVID period would have brought in a lot of leadership lessons and EQ lessons for how they were to do it differently. And while CQ remains at the core of what we do, and if it is backed by genuineness, authenticity, and a true emotional quotient, which is beyond just a nice caption that we put people at the top of the mind and we really care for people, etc. I think the people that we work with today see through all of that.
Okay.
And I keep saying this about what lies inside you comes out in every interaction. And as such, as human beings, I think we are programmed. We have what we call the intuitive sense or the sixth sense or whatever to sense to is this guy, is this person real, or is this another four lines which sound real? And does the organization really mean what they say and say what they mean? So I think the CQ has to be clearly balanced and engulfed. And EQ, and I would say EQ, I would keep it foundational
Mm.
in any business because I mean, even today, when you talk to investors, when you talk to counterparties, you talk to stakeholders, people can tell eventually because you're dealing with counterparties who've been there, done that. They can realize whether there's an element of genuineness and authenticity about the delivery.
Correct, correct. And I think if you're not authentic, so rightly put, Anurag, if you're not authentic, people will see through it. And then I, I hear you. I understand, what's perhaps happened outside the Leela, and it's been a tough time. But when you look internally, and I don't think you had the luxury of hybrid working or remote working because you had to be out there. If it was not a hotel, it was an isolation center or a quarantine center, and you were doing all sorts of different things. But going through that, uh, focus on mental well-being has become the norm of the day. Everyone's talking about mental wellness. Do you think there is a greater onus on leaders to demonstrate empathy? And to what you said, perhaps everyone sort of learned leadership lessons must have over the last 18 months. Do you think leaders now need to uh, not just talk about empathy, but perhaps really do something around demonstrating empathy?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I would say, practicing it and demonstrating it and showing it and making a part of something as critical as managing your balance sheets. I think managing the human capital and the emotional balance sheet is as important as the fiscal balance sheet. Clearly, because, and this brought it out because we realized people changed, our businesses changed, priorities changed, focus changed, and in a sense, reality sunk in. We unfortunately were also, like we witnessed a few losses in the extended Leela family, and we saw how the families had to impact. And we obviously, as part of the extended family, had to reach out and do what we could do as one should do as a responsible corporate organization. But nonetheless, I think managing wellness, managing the head space and the mind space, using technology, using partners for it, and ensuring that, well, we used technology. We signed up with third-party wellness consultants, mental, physical, spiritual, emotional counselors. And using technology, we launched an app called My Leela, which has actually brought it to everyone in an absolutely agnostic and yet almost, I mean, it's something that you have a helpline available to you 24/7 where you can speak your heart out and be heard. And this has got no preclude or anything to do with the organization since
Hmm.
it's outsourced to another agency. We did that. We actually have revisited and pivoted the roles of several human resource professionals as well as our training managers who are dealing with the rank and file on a real time every day. Our general managers and property leaders across the board have also been in this journey in the front end and the front line of being impacted because they had businesses and hotels to run, and they also had 5 to 700 people to take care of and their families. So I think ensuring that this mental wellness becomes a priority. We have those camps now in every hotel. We have taken time off and are we encouraging more of our leaders to practice, which is always a cliched sentence called this work-life balance. So I wouldn't say like it's a balance anymore, really. It's how do you navigate your wellness and build it into your work life.
Correct.
We brought in a few consultants and professionals who actually are coming and telling folks that what you can do within your workspace without having, although we were able to get all our associates and as the organization, we were the first of the board to get 100% of all Leela associates vaccinated in record time. And everybody got the second dose as well as per eligibility. And but it was critical for us to bring this as a priority item
Right.
across all our hotels. And even whilst we did all of that and included families, even our guests they noticed it,
Mm,
which is important, and critical. And this goes back to what you mentioned earlier. That does EQ have some impact on CQ?
mm,
I say in our business for sure, which is 100% B2C and
mm,
hospitality, I've always practiced can't work from home.
mm.
You can't run hotels sitting in houses, right? We are something like the medical professional or the police authorities that you have to be right up there in the field, delivering services and experience. And our hotels were also refuge to many, hospitals initially, and then a lot of guests who were coming into India and had to be quarantined and things of that nature. So we played that role as well. So I think, and ensuring that our leaders and everybody across all level remain at the top of the game.
Mm.
It's now almost an institutionalized process that you need to navigate wellness, including mental well-being and mental wellness as a part of what you do.
Wow. Kudos, Anurag, to you and to the team. Uh, I also feel there's often this debate of what is more important as in a leader. Is it the IQ or is it the EQ? And then I feel while IQ is undoubtedly very vital. Do you think today EQ becomes more important or relevant to differentiate between effective and less effective leaders per se?
So I tell you, of course, IQ is a sense is a non-negotiable. I would say in many ways because you wouldn't really get to a level of leadership unless you knew your stuff, as in talking about not just technical or commercial sensibilities, but overall IQ, cognitive skills, the listening skills. But I think at a certain level, when you move away from operative kind of roles to more strategic roles where you from an individual contributor you become a leader of people, where you get the job done through people, which happens in the pyramid of leadership, where you work with where you are more in an influencer of a performance rather than a doer and an executioner of performance. EQ takes the front seat. Because today, I mean, if I look at myself, how my role and my journey over the last 20 years, last 2 decades, I mean, the higher you move up in life, the more is your accountability for other people, and the performance of other people. So, I mean, if any business that you run today, if you have to run it through people, understanding of the people, having a great connect with them, ensuring that you are real, so that you have a real person talking to you, ensuring that you develop that skill and that almost intuitive ability to understand what's going on, what's working, that understanding that there's a not just, if there is a sulk around, then why the sulk is happening and what could be the trigger for it. The understanding that there is a life beyond work and how it impacts performance. And I've seen that in my journey. So I think EQ takes on a much bigger or more significant role the higher you move up the hierarchy. I mean, an IQ will get to a certain point, and I've seen many individual contributors who were brilliant in what they delivered. But the moment they became a leader of people, then we had to say, hey, we need to bring in some coaching and mentoring here because suddenly the performance slipped because we realized that the biggest challenge in that particular role was the people with high IQ realized that they were the smartest guys or girls in the room. So then
Mhm.
we had to say, okay, hey, that's why you are here, but then you need to ensure you'll uplift your team up to a certain standard, and that's your bigger role now.
Correct.
So I think that comes into play very often.
Correct. Interesting. And I like what you said, when you're perhaps influencing performance, EQ is much more important than when you're executing performance. So nicely put. And I think mentoring, coaching leaders is one big, but do you think perhaps an extension to that, do you think at leadership levels, are organizations now increasing their priority of EQ over IQ of a person, while making maybe hiring decisions or promoting someone or even thinking of succession plans?
They are. I think they are. And even where, like people are moving into positions of significant responsibility, probably for the first time in their careers, I think it's very important that, and I'm seeing it around, leadership coaches coming in, deploying. You spoke about coaching and mentoring. You spoke about succession planning, because I think we see more and more young leaders moving into positions of responsibility fairly early in their careers, and it's no longer about the years of experience, but what different stuff have you done in those years, over the years. So coaching, mentoring, bringing in a leadership coach from outside, bringing in a fresh perspective from outside, someone who can nudge you, challenge you, and yet kind of smoothen your rough edges, has become increasingly important. And I think it really also gives you a perspective from someone who's been there, done that, and can give you a different perspective other than your direct boss. Because your direct boss, who may be your direct report, will always have a certain skin in the game. And I think his or her bias would probably be more towards performance and achievement of the business objectives. Wherein more and more organizations I'm seeing today, they would bring in a leadership coach or a mentor from outside who can act as a kind of your go-to person, as a counselor, who can say, hey, well, if you think you're the only one in this, well, I've been there, but this could be another way of doing it. And maybe this is why this is happening to you. I haven't been privileged enough to find a leadership coach for myself, but maybe not, I would like to, maybe I don't like to believe that I would need one, but I'm sure it adds a really value. But I see this in progressive organizations, including ours.
Interesting. Well, one last thing, Anurag, you've sort of defined EQ and then perhaps the nuances around it so beautifully. But reflecting on your career, perhaps looking at your personal experiences, can you think of instances, and I'm sure there are many, which reaffirm the importance of emotional intelligence, and perhaps helped you evolve better as a leader?
So, okay, this is why it's a tough one is because I have to look back at all 30 years of my career. But I can tell you some things that, well, I never thought that maybe I have a high EQ. I would like to believe that I had, and hence I was doing it. It just made sense to me. They came to me as a default mode. I mean, I have supported people long before this was a mandated thing to do. I remember a leader who had just been blessed with a baby girl, and she wanted to get back to work soon enough after her, mandated or maternity leave and all that. How we create an organization and a structure to not just to take care of her, her baby, including her maid, give her a hotel room where she could feed the baby and things of that nature. How we instituted, I was able to start a scholarship scheme and a plan for people. And, for us, it was like, we didn't think that the kind of impact it will have. But, the moment we launched this scholarship scheme across various levels, up to a certain level for our rank and file associates, and we saw the kids come up on stage and receive the scholarship checks. The amounts weren't huge because these schools weren't too expensive, but the smiles on the children and the smiles on the parents, and their fact that they were able to now afford schools of a better quality because they knew the organization was taking care of that. That really remained like is one role. Then, as I said, not only were we able to vaccinate all our associates and their families, to the extent we even said that even if a lot of our folks, almost 20% of them had gone back to their hometowns, we say even if you get privately vaccinated, we will get the reimbursements done. Unfortunately, we lost a few associates in this long period. We ensured that we took care of their families, including a job for their eligible family member or a promise of a job in the future. And so there have been many things, and I'm sure across the journey, many such things have happened. Our contractual employees, I remember in a couple of my hotels where I was, as you mentioned, doing general management roles, despite working in an environment which is IR sensitive, we, I still took a bold decision of confirming many contractual employees because I realized that the third party vendor was taking up to 15% of what they made every month. And the best part is this was against common sense in those days, and it was against a lot of guidance. So it was a, if I may use the word, a bold reform and a very bold step, because everybody came back to me and told me, look, this is, let's say, the state that I was working at that time, and said, look, you will be empowering the other side, the unions, and said, look, I don't, first of all, I don't see them as an enemy. I see them as an ally with a lot of vested, common shared goals in many ways and a vested interest. And to my joy, that worked out very favorably in towards the management in that sense as well. So there have been many places where I see demonstrating and acting on high EQ assists you commercially as well and helps your business also. But my only caveat here is don't do it because you think, don't practice EQ because you think it's going to be good for your business. Because as I said earlier, anything that you put on for some time can be seen through by the other parties. So if it is not in you, then try to look inwards and try to inculcate that in you. If it is not with you, as your default mode. But just practicing high EQ or demonstrating high EQ for optics may not be the wise thing to do, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And then thank you so much, Anurag. More power to you. It was such a lovely conversation. I'm so glad I could spend this time with you. And I appreciate getting this opportunity to peek into you, perhaps as a leader, slightly more. And I'm sure everyone around me will find it very, very interesting. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you, Angela. Lovely talking to you as always.